That's that's all the strains of Zionism that they try to brainwash you with as a kid. That's why I find that triggering. Like yeah, man, that's it. Everything revolves around Israel. You should feel kind of guilty that you're not in Israel fighting this fight, and you cannot turn your back on Israel or you're betraying the bloodline going back thousands of years of Jews who've been killed and who have suffered for being Jewish. You have this responsibility to this country you've never been to support its apartheid state, and that's the least you can do. And American Jews see Israelis do kind of look at American Jews like that. This is one of those subtle things in the community that outsiders wouldn't really know about. They look at American Jews or even just non-Israeli Jews in general like they never left the ghetto mentality.
Right. That they call us yeah, sorry, go ahead.
They claimed their manhood, so to speak, even though women fight as well. They claimed it through violence, through blood, through claiming this land. They see it almost as a redemptive, transformative experience, having fought and taken Israel. That Jews who didn't do that and didn't go live in Israel, they don't have that. So like a Woody Allen type, they have total contempt for that. To them, that's like you still have that shtetl, which is the Jewish ghetto. You still have that mindset, that mentality.
Yeah, the especially kind of nasty ones call us Holocaust Jews. They actually say that. You're a Holocaust Jew. Christ. You're a Jew who basically has, I mean, in the case of like a Woody Allen, in the case of like the creative types, you kind of exploit the victimhood of your people to create these very effete, weak, nebbishy, vulnerable characters. And through that sort of self-deprecation comes a certain charm and a certain sense of humor, which is why a lot of Jews are funny. But you notice Israelis are not funny. Israeli Jews are not funny because they have no self-deprecating
like the only Jews who are not funny.
Mentality, right? Because in order to be funny, first of all, in order to be interesting creatively, you have to be vulnerable, and they are not vulnerable, right? They see vulnerability as a weakness. They also have no ability to criticize themselves or to see themselves in a critical light. That's where a lot of humor comes from. That's where a lot of Jewish humor comes from. And so they're the only unfunny Jews in the world, and it makes total sense. And they actually have contempt, as Russell said, for Jews who can have a sense of humor about themselves, right? That's why the Jews and the Irish have a similar sense of humor, because they both have this kind of tragic past, and they use humor as a means to kind of, get through that. And it's the same thing. It's self-deprecating, right? It's not violent. That's the other
dark.
thing. They view
gallows.
anybody. It's dark. It's gallows, right? They view anybody who's not motivated by violence and violent revenge as weak.
But the last thing I'm gonna say on that last clip, just for a slightly different take, is that the way she talks, wouldn't it be interesting if workers felt that way? You know how she says it's the Jews, your job to always fight for Israel. No. Imagine if the workers like it's your job to always advocate for the revolution. Our job to always advocate for the betterment of the workers. Her toxic mentality, but apply that to a revolution, apply that to improving people's material needs. And that's what I actually try. I live that in my personal life. And that's why I'm grateful that I learned the Marxist analysis and class consciousness more than anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's why I smile to workers, customer service workers. I go out of my way to be as nice to these motherfuckers as possible when I'm out, man. And that's just because how I generally change in class consciousness. I am saying, like, I think anyone human, I may be the only one to admit this, but in my early days, there's probably times I lost my temper, probably snapped at someone working. I would never do that now. Never.
Right.
Never. Like, I would never. People fuck my shit up, like,
yeah.
Man, like, I try my best, and that's because what I learned, like, who have a trained, drilled loyalty to workers. That's why I truly believe. So that's what we should view. Like, how she's talking about how Jews should be loyal to Zionists. All workers should be fiercely loyal to the revolution. That's the dream, and that's what we work to. That's what we love to see. I pass it back to the panel.
How did you? I'm curious.
Yeah,
How did you get turned on to like Marxist theory, and how did you get turned on?
Because I saw the failures of social democracy. I was a Bernie bro, and I was I was already further to the left than like the average social democrat. But I'm like, all right, let's follow the lead. Let's see if they can create social change. And I am always a revolutionary optimist, and that bite me in the ass a lot of times. Because in 2016, in 2020, I was the Bernie bro, like, nigga, we got this. Like, it's over. It's over for neoliberalism, nigga. We coming. It's over for y'all. It's done for the Hillary Clinton people. That was what I was saying. Like in 2005, 2015, even 2017, I'm like, man, nigga, we got this. It's over for them. And then the Bernie movement failed. And I've seen these constant failures. And a lot of them, I bit my tongue in the campaign because I didn't want to be like a negative Nancy. That's why I learned my lesson about civility politics. Because when I seen like Bernie Sanders be nice and say Joe Biden's good friend, I thought that was stupid as shit. And there was a lot of tension in the campaign. And there were a lot of Bernie people who got upset with me because I used to fiercely go after Elizabeth Warren, for example. You know what I mean? Then there were people in the Bernie campaign like, why are you going after Elizabeth Warren? She's like, Al. I'm like, you guys are your fucking minds. So my point is, I saw all these mistakes happening, but I was following their lead because I just thought that professional managerial class and social democrats knew what they're doing. So when Bernie lost, I was like, as all the Bernie Sanders brothers, all the Bernie bros, as a lot of them turned to liberals and Democrats, I shifted further to the left. I'm like, all right, bro, obviously this ideology is not working. I was pissed off at you guys for a lot of different reasons, and I should have acted on that hesitancy, and that led me to look at what was successful, who had successful revolutions, what's ideology actually led to the betterment of the people. And that's why when you look at socialists in the global south, when you look at people who had successful revolutions, when you look at Southeastern Asian communists, they look at Western leftists, the social democrat Bernie bros, as a fucking joke.
Right.
And I used to be offended. I used to talk to these people like, they're like, nigga, y'all think y'all about to do something with Bernie? These people used to say this. I used to talk to Claudia and Josana, all these Brazilian comedies. Like,
Claudia is running now. Dela Cruz.
Oh no, sorry.
No, a different Claudia.
She's an indigenous Brazilian communist who was fighting against the Bolsonaro regime. But anyway, the point being, every like leftist in the world who actually was successful in getting material needs for the people viewed the United States left as a joke. So to answer your question shortly, because I went a little bit too long here, I would decide to look into who was successful, who actually accomplished things for people like the Black Panthers, who followed a tenet of Marxist-Leninism. And there was I'm trying to remember the name of it. There was a great writing that I read a long time ago where members of the Black Panther Party was explaining why we are ideologically in line with the Marxist-Leninist movement. And it was extremely pro-Black. And from there, I didn't look back. And then I started reading more. And like I said before earlier, I didn't call myself a Marxist, but I always was a Marxist because that shit clicked to me like that. I'm like, oh, that's why social democrats failed. Oh, that's why this happened. Oh, so anyway, that's a long answer, but that's to answer your question. Generally, it's because the failures of the social democrats in the United States, the failures of people who are anti-communist, because the anti-communists, they judge communist countries, they judge other movements in worldwide, but at least those movements got things for people. What the state of the workers in our country? I'm not saying these people are perfect. There's things that we should learn from revolutionary movement before. I feel like some communists are too like super into like the Soviet Union, too super into something. I feel like you should be able to criticize this stuff as Marxists and communists because that's how we get better, and that's what we should be doing. Maybe that's a long ass answer. Hopefully, you found it enlightening.
It's interesting. We gotta have you on our show to talk about communism.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot on my channel. That's why I know these people probably heard this 1,000 times, but yeah, it's.
No, we've never had a show on like theory like that. I would love to do that. Keaton's like, yeah, sure.
Well, I had Nick on the show, but he co-hosted with me while you were.
Did you guys get into that when he was on?
No, we did headlines.
No.
We did shtick.
No, I know they've been on the show. I would like to have them on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, to that, yeah.
All right, we're going to go right into this because it's a short, funny story. This is the story of an unhinged New York councilwoman. So this is a city councilwoman goes viral with this unhinged pro-Israel dress. Now, researching this story, just researching who this person is, come to find out she's pretty. I mean, if the dress didn't tell you she's pretty unhinged, she's pretty unhinged, and I'll get to the story in just a second. But I love this from Blue Moon Lucy. She says, "Spot the difference," and she has the two dresses. I love the comparison there. But let's get into the actual posting here, and this is the councilwoman, and I think the way you pronounce her name is Ina Vernikov. I think that's it, Ina Vernikov. And I'm gonna read her caption in just a minute. But this is the dress that she posted. Again, it's the same picture. I'm trying to make it a little bit larger. But as you can see, it's what is that? Like a jet blue, not jet blue, like a navy blue with the Star of David or the Israeli flag.
Bro,
now
imagine...
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, bro. Imagine for all my people in the chat that got toxic masculinity like I do. Imagine if you had a date. Imagine you had a date and then your date just pulled up in his damn dress.
that would be the end of that date. Bro.
Oh my!
Let's
That'd
go.
be out of there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, CJ.
All right, I'll read real quick. Tonight on the 3rd of the Hanukkah, I am at the New York City Gala, probably wearing a dress. How do you say that?
Emblazoned in the flag of Israel.
Emblazoned in the flag of Israel. So many Jewish New Yorkers and Jewish college students all over our country are afraid to display their Jewish identity. Wear you're gonna have to pronounce kippah. I think kippah, a Star of David, or express
kippah, right? Kippah.
I don't know.
Kippah.
You know better than me.
I think they said kippah.
Kippah, a Star of David, or express support for the
Further
great
along in
state
your
of
training
Israel.
than I am.
We cannot be afraid. We cannot be silent. Be Jewish. Be proud. Be loud. Be proud. This is where we live, and we will not be intimidated. P.S. This dress was created by an incredible Project Runway winner and celebrity designer, Irina Shabayeva, who pulled it together. And Shabayeva.
No one get. I don't want
who put his? Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't mean cut you off, but who gives? I don't want to get her.
No. Go ahead. No, you don't want to hear that. I understand completely.
Oh my God! In less than 24 hours, she put together something so tasteful. Well, I can't believe it.
Go ahead, Nick.
She stole RFK's bedsheet and created a little neck hole through it.
This is
some
what
design.
And maybe this is my atheist in me speaking. I never was really that religious. And Russell and Keaton, you check out, obviously. But if I believed that there was a holy land where, like, this is the holy land of my people, ordained by God, and I truly believe that to the bottom of my soul, I will live there.
That's true.
You know, I'm an atheist, so I can't relate, but that's just, if I really feel like, nigga, San Diego is my homeland, nigga, I would live in San Diego because I'm like, nigga, this is the homeland. There's nowhere better on earth I should be than my homeland. So I generally do not understand these Zionist Jews who don't live in Israel. You claim that Israel means so much to you. Why don't you fucking live there? You live in New York. Oh my God, Israel's so important homeland. Nigga, there's an ocean. There's an ocean between you and your homeland. Why is there an ocean between your homeland? There's a lot of distance between you and the space you apparently feel so fucking comfortable with.
But it's different than just a homeland. It's more than that. Because they're not just saying this is our homeland, meaning this is where of my birth. They're saying this is where this is the land ordained to us by God, and we are supposed to return back to this land. So it's more than just saying I'm from here.
Yeah.
To me, but this, I mean, so I'm gonna assume that she's Jewish because that's the way she spoke in the tweet. But this picture here, somebody took the picture she made and photoshopped it like this.
God bless him.
which to me is a more accurate sort of depiction of where she should be wearing this dress, apparently, since she's so proud. But let me go. This is where I'm ending up, and that's this headline here. So this is where I said there's more to this lady than meets the eye. So you see her, and you think, oh, this is unhinged. Yeah, she's kind of unhinged, but she's not that unhinged. Yes, she is. Here is a headline right here. New York City Councilwoman Ina Vernikov arrested for bringing gun to pro-Palestinian rally at Brooklyn College. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring up the article in just a second. Yes, this is the same person. This goes viral, actually.
Bro, wow. What? I did not put my brain in connect. What?
Yeah, 32,000. So I think he ratios hers, or maybe he gets close. 32,000. No, not quite. So he gets close though. She has 44,000. He's at 32,000 with this headline. And shout out to Johnny. He's a friend of the show. I would consider him a friend of the show, even though he hasn't been on the show. But anyway,
Johnny's a great dude. I like Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny's good. He was off Twitter for a while, but he's back. Here's a picture of her. Oh, here's a picture of her, as you can see. Oops. On the screen, you see her. That's her in that little. Let me see if I can make it bigger. If I click on it, it'll take me to the article, so I can't click on it. Let me just make this bigger. So if you can see, she's at the rally. It says she's at the rally. You see what she has in her waist, circled in red.
Yeah,
that's her.
Yeah.
She's completely unhinged. She gives me
IDF Mossad, bro.
I was just about to say something similar. She gives me a very settler vibe. Like if she was in the West Bank, she would be one of those that's going after the Palestinians in the West Bank. But go ahead, Nick or Keaton. I couldn't tell who was going to.
Go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
We're going to chime in there.
If
no one, I have the next receipt. Go ahead.
Well, something that even I've really learned over the course of this since October 2nd and everything that's happened since, Israelis are typically not religious. And I knew that, but I never really delved into why. Now I understand why. Jews are people who are religious Jews, who are really into the religion of Judaism. They're not Zionists, and they find Zionism offensive. If you look at all these rabbis who have been going around trying to say they hijacked our religion, this is a secular nationalist movement that started in Austria in the late 19th century. And even at the time, the rabbis were against it. Because in the end, and I'm not a religious person either, in the end, if you actually are a religious Jew, you're not supposed to be in Israel. The Messiah didn't come.
Right,
the Messiah is supposed to bring you back to Israel. So you cannot be a Jew who really, truly believes in the religion and say that you support Israel. So
that's why the Orthodox Jews are against it then.
That's why you're not supposed to be there. It's a sin against God to go and
the Messiah brings
Israel.
Right. The Messiah does.
If the Messiah didn't bring you back, then you shouldn't be there in the first place, according to them. So Elon Pape, though, he summed up this contradiction very well. He said, most Zionists don't believe in God, but they all believe he promised them Israel. That's what it is.
So spot on. That is so spot on.
They will appeal to that religious tradition. This is the land of our forefathers. This is where they belong. But you ask them, like, American Jews are much more likely to be religious than they are. They're actually not religious, but they like to use religion as an excuse for atrocity.
Dude, I usually avoid religious arguments when it comes to the Israel-Palestine issue on purpose. Kwame Ture is actually really good at it, like, because he's a religious scholar in a way. So he dismantles Zionism using, like, their own shit because he, like, knows everything about Judaism and Islam as well. So the way he dismantles Zionism is actually way more effective than me because he does both. Like, he does it in a decolonization way, and then he also is a religious scholar, so he destroys them on their point. But that's interesting that that Orthodox Jews have a religious argument, which I've seen a lot of them wage against Zionist Jews, but I always found it extremely confusing, which is the argument I could use, that many Zionist Jews team up with evangelical Christians who religions say that they need to safeguard Israel, so all the Jews who don't believe in Christ will be judged and then killed and sent to hell. Like all the evangelical Christians who support Israel believe that every single Israeli is going to hell and they're there to protect their land for like some fucking what is it called? The fucking end times, whatever. What the fuck the Christian end times called?
The apocalypse.
Rapture.
The rapture, yeah.
But so the rapture. So I'm like, if I was like even if I was a Zionist, like, hold up, bro, them motherfuckers are dubious over there, but like many people mentioned before, Zionists are often not.
Well, it's funny. I mean, as Russell said, a lot of Israelis are secular, and so they probably think of these evangelical Zionists as fucking morons. Like, yeah, sure, we need to be there until the rapture comes. You need us there for that rapture. Make sure we're there. Rapture will come any day now. You know. I mean, that's probably what it is. They're probably just playing it. They're like, fuck it, I'll take it. I mean, the rapture's never coming. If these schmucks need to believe that to defend Israel, then fuck it, give it to them.
Well, that's why if you see the Hasidic Jews, which is different from the Orthodox Jews, like the Hasidics with the curls and everything, those guys, their whole thing, they're a sect of Jews, all focused on what they need to do to get the Messiah to come, to bring them back to Israel. So their belief is basically the Jews got kicked out of Israel because they displeased God, so they have to be very religious and devoted to basically put enough credit in the Messiah bank. And once it reaches a certain level of redemption, the Messiah is going to come. That's what they're on about. That's basically what they're doing. When you see them go out, in your parts of you might, CJ, you're in LA. In New York, it's more common.
I was just gonna say there is a large what do you say, Hasidic, where they have they in Long Beach, in the Bixby Knoll area, there is a large community.
Well, do they go out?
And also in Beverly Hills too.
Do they go out with the RV and like try to get Jews to pray with them? They do that in New York.
I always only see them walking. At one point I thought, wait, maybe they're not supposed to use cars. This is when I was younger, when I used to always see, because I would never see them
they're
driving
not Amish like
in
that.
in this part of the area. And it just so happens though, the reason I always saw them walking, because everything they needed was all in walking distance of their so that's why I didn't know at the time.
Also, a lot of those families have like 12 people in them. It's hard to, to get everybody. It's true. They have huge families. That makes driving a big inconvenience. No, at the Hasidic community near where I grew up, there was one called, it's still there, Curious Joel. They would walk everywhere too. Because, I mean, seriously, if you got 8 kids in a household, and you got the supermarket's 4 blocks away, you're going to walk it.
I never thought of that. And they were always with a big group. I never thought of that until you just said that, because they were typically, it was a father, maybe his brother, and he was always like 4 or 5 kids. I never put together, they just couldn't simply fit in a car. They didn't want to.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre, man. I used to deliver food. I still do every now and then, but when I used to deliver like DoorDash or Uber Eats to that community, you would go in like the vestibule of the apartment building, and no lie, like 50 strollers just jammed into each other, just like not parked. Like, they must have just said, like, if you need one, take one. It was like that kind of thing. Like, there's no way to keep track of which stroller is yours.
All right. Let me read just the headline here. New York City Councilman Emma Vernikov arrested for bringing guns to pro-Palestinian rally at Brooklyn College. I want to scroll down and read a little bit just of the details of this story. The councilwoman had been charged after openly carrying a firearm at the protest on Thursday. The city council is now investigating her actions as students gathered outside of Brooklyn College Thursday for dueling protests, pro-Palestinian on one side and pro-Israel on the Israeli on the other side. The councilwoman made her stance clear. Quote, "I'm here today to support the Jewish students that are in school today," she said. Hours later, the Republican council member from southern Brooklyn was arrested for bringing a handgun to the rally tucked in her waistband. And I showed you the picture there, and I'm showing you this only to go to the next one, which shows us the end result of it. Now, I don't know if she got off because she's a council person, or she got off because of the Jewish lobby. I have no clue, but she got off. And it says here, Brooklyn DA dropped gun charges against city council member citing inoperable weapon. So the gun was inoperable? Yeah.
Very convenient.
Inoperable weapon. I don't understand. So because the gun wasn't workable, that makes the crime, it makes it not a crime.
Yeah, that
so
sounds like an
you're
excuse
telling
they
me,
totally go for if it was anybody else.
I was just about to get to that. So you're telling me all I gotta say is the gun jams. The gun jams. It doesn't work, and I don't need to have a permit for a gun. It's
Hey, bro,
because
this
it's
is bullshit.
inoperable. Yeah.
As someone who followed the George Floyd protests very closely, as someone who got started in activism because of the Ferguson protest, nigga, if you protest against the police state, they will charge you for having a butter knife on you. But they're like, she don't have an operable weapon. If you have anything, they'll find any reason. Look at what they doing in Cop City. But they found a way to get this person off because she served the establishment, of course. But let's continue.
Now, this is what the interesting part. I'm just going to read these two paragraphs here. New York law passed last year prohibits the possession of firearms at sensitive locations, including protests. Now, just a side note, if they have a law that uses the word sensitive locations, is described that way so they can insert whatever the fuck they want to insert as a location. I don't know if that's what it states in, but the way they quote it is telling me that's how it's quoted in the law. That's terrifying to me if I was in New York, but let me continue. That's a side note. Even for licensed gun holders like the councilwoman. So even if you have a licensed gun, this law still applies to you. But state case law holds for the prosecutors to prove a possession charge. The firearm must be operable. And I'll continue on. New York PD monitored the rally. Now, understand, she showed up with the gun. Police were there. Just so like the guy who...
So if you show up with a gun with a safety on, are you okay? Based on this bullshit? But go ahead, CJ.
But what is the guy, what's his name? The guy that killed those protesters, the guy off? Kyle something. Kyle, you know, the guy that got Rittenhouse, yeah. So to me, this is very similar. Rittenhouse can show up, police see him, and don't basically do anything. She shows up with a gun. They do nothing. And I'll read this part. Officers monitoring the rally did not arrest the council person or seize the gun at the time. Instead, police took possession of the gun when she voluntarily turned herself in and handed over the weapon the following morning. That is astonishing to me. I'm sure that would happen to me if I showed up to that pro-Israel rally in Washington, D.C., I'm sure I would get the same treatment, even if my gun was inoperable, guys. So, but this is an astonishing story of a person of privilege, and I don't know if it's privilege because she's a councilwoman or privilege because she's a Zionist, but she's getting special treatment here, obviously, in my opinion, and that's a good point. But any of you want to chime in? I know it was a quick story, and then we can go to your story, Russell. But anyone want to chime in? Any final words on this story? The unhinged dress by the unhinged councilwoman is just another story of Zionist propaganda gone awry.
She is the most sane Zionist.
Yeah,
that's as good as it gets.
The least unhinged Zionist, I call it, right? Yeah. I mean, that story pretty much, I mean, the insanity of that almost speaks for itself. But if I had to add something, I would say that, you know, on October 8th, Russell actually went and filmed a Free Palestine rally in Times Square. And he documented a lot of really vicious racism coming from the Zionists at the protesters, because there was, of course, a very large counter-protest there. And so this is an extreme example of that, because you're talking about bringing a weapon to a rally, right? But it's of a piece in the sense that the media has to maintain the narrative that the Free Palestine protesters are the agitators and that they are the risk, they are the threat, right? You saw that video went not quite viral, I would say, but it did pretty well for a stupid video that it was, of that guy climbing the lamppost on a street corner in New York City and taking down the American flag and the UN flag and putting in the Free Palestine flag,
the Palestine flag,
and they say, "Oh my God, look at the looters are taking over the city," right? Like, they have to inflate every act of, in that case, totally peaceful resistance. They have to paint that as a threat. Meanwhile, you have, when Russell goes to the rally and films it, you'll see, and it's not unique to that rally, whenever there is a clash between the pro-Israel protesters and the ceasefire protesters, the pro-Israel protesters are always a million times more vicious. They said things to Medea Benjamin that we couldn't even show on YouTube, because it would get us a hate speech violation if we just showed that.
Wow.
Right? And so this is a more extreme example of that, but it's in the same line.
No, I've been to I think 3 of these now, and yeah, the counter protesters are deranged. They're deranged, and I know why, because you get brainwashed from childhood to think like a Nazi, man, to basically have an unquestioning it's not only an unquestioning loyalty to Israel. They inculcate people from childhood with the idea that people who are against Israel are Nazis and Nazi adjacent, right? That's where that absolute moral outrage comes from, because they think they're fighting Nazis.